Welcome back. Let's try this again. I have some seeds, and for these I had to go online to several websites to figure out what I wanted to say about them. So just reading off the internet wasn't working. So this is why this is the second try. I had to write it up in my book here. These have been around. They are actually open pollinated heirloom seeds. But I guess since the pandemic and now inflation, people are wanting to grow their own food, and most people don't really have a lot of space. So I found out the correct terminology I needed to find tomato varieties that were about the same size as Tiny Tim. That is micro dwarf. I got these from a company called Heritage Seed Market. They're in Milton, Florida. Micro dwarf tomatoes are determinate plants that have a maximum height of 30 centimeters, 12 inches, some a little more. The first one, Birdie Yuan, I'm assuming the J is pronounced as a Y, is an open pollinated variety from the Netherlands. It grows about 20 to 25 centimeters, so that's about 10 inches. Perfect for 3 to 4 liter, 3/4 to 1 gallon pots, and can be grown under grow lights, on a sunny windowsill, on a balcony, or in the garden. Maturity is about 70 days to first ripe fruit. Then I have a bonsai. Bonsai maxes out at about 30 centimeters, 12 inches, and matures at about 75 days. Incredible Seeds say they become covered in so many 1-inch cherry tomatoes they almost make the leaves disappear. And also perfect for planters and balconies. Renaissance Farms say they can be grown in 3/4 to 1 gallon pots and will top out at 8 inches. So if you grow them, I think if you put them in like a 5-gallon bucket, they'll get to 12, 16 inches, but in a 3/4 gallon, they top out at 8, which of course means they can be grown in a city apartment if you have a sunny windowsill or under grow lights. The fruit on those are about the size of a silver dollar. I'm pronouncing this one Chibiko. Chibiko comes from Japan and will reach 10 to 16 inches, depending on the pot size. The red fruit weigh in at about 15 grams. Maturity is at 60 days. Now 15 grams, I picked a Tiny Tim tomato this morning, and it was about regular size for Tiny Tim. And it was 5 grams, so you're talking 3 times the size of a Tiny Tim tomato. I have one here called Gold Pearl. Gold Pearl can reach 18 inches and needs at least a 1-gallon pot. So this is a larger one, about the size of Tiny Tim, the plant. Now it's not to be confused with Golden Pearl, which is an hybrid tomato, or the golden pearls that I tried to grow out in the garden this past growing season. Those are 2 different plants. This here is actually a heirloom yellow cherry tomato. Its maturity is 70 days. The moment, now they get little tiny cherry tomatoes on these. This comes from Russia. It reaches 8 to 10 inches. And can be grown once again in 3 to 4 liter pots and matures in about 65 days. The Venus tomatoes is the smallest of the set I have here. It grows just 15 to 20 centimeters, 6 to 8 inches. It's said to have a 75-day maturity after transplant. So we'll see how it grows, because I'm just growing them inside, so I'm not really transplanting them outside, right? We'll calculate how many days under what number of growing degree units it needs. Vilma. Thompson and Morgan say Vilma was especially bred for growing in containers. It does, however, get to 60 centimeters, which is 2 feet, and 30 centimeters wide, so it's fairly large for a determinate cherry tomato. So the plant is about the same size as Tiny Tim. The fruit weigh about 20 grams. So that would be probably the biggest of the fruits that I got. That's a nice sized cherry tomato. Renaissance Farms reports 8-inch plants in a half-gallon containers. Thompson & Morgan, I think, grew them in 5-gallon containers. Another discrepancy was the days to maturity. One page said 65 days from transplant, while the other said 80 days. We'll see what I get. That is 7 varieties I have here, and remember I have the Tiny Tim, my 3-year-old Tiny Tim, and the unknown variety that I dug up from the garden. I just took 1 seed of each, and I planted them in here because I said, well, I'm growing them inside, and if 1 seed don't germinate, then I'll just plant another one and re-record the day that I planted it. The one that is not growing there is the Golden Pearls, that plant that I tried last year. These now, the rest of them, so I planted them on the 24th of November, and 7 days later, on the 30th of November, they were all up except the Moment. The Moment is the shortest one here. The Moment come up the next day at 8 days, and now we're at 2 weeks. Every one of them's got their first set of leaves, and all except the Moment, which will be soon, is starting on their second set of leaves. True leaves, that is. I am going to take these after I'm done recording the video and transfer them over to little pots like this and let them grow on a little further right there under the grow light. And when they get up a nice size, then I'll transfer them over to, I think most of the pots I've got for them are 1-gallon pots. And I'll put them upstairs in the bay window area. I'm going to make a better shelf there, and it'll be a lot of room for, we've got 7, 8, 9, so we'll have 9 1-gallon pots, and testing the different varieties of microdwarf tomatoes. At the trees, I buy, I guess you might already know, I buy my tree seeds from Incredible Seed. And I buy them as early as I can because a lot of your perennials, and especially trees, need a period of cold stratification. So I had to put them in the fridge to do that. I listed off all the seeds tree seeds that I still want to get from Incredible Seeds. And it was come to $139 plus tax. But now all of the ones they have listed, they list everything that they get on a regular basis, but that don't mean that they will have them when you go to try and order them. They have a bunch that they don't have in stock right now. And I was able to get 6 different varieties of trees this time. I bought another pack of Osage Orange because as far as woodworking goes, their entire set of trees, this is a really hard wood, and it grows in quite a bushy habit, so it won't be very old before I'm able to get good usable product from these trees. So I want a lot of them. How many did I plant? I think I have 10, 12 something up there by the roadway, but I'm going to grow some more, and by the time I get to planting these, then I'll be able to report on how well the other ones are growing. Maybe somebody might be interested, who knows. 20 seeds in this packet. And then I bought some more on the locust because I wanted 10 trees across that upper part where I'm starting. I got a line of 7 now, and I wanted to go to the other side of the cellar and put in 3 more. This packet has 20 seeds as well, but I had to buy 3 seeds, but the smallest number I could buy is 20 seeds. So hopefully I get a few more, and I've got places to plant them. Now, the new ones. Eastern Redbud. A lot of you guys up on the mainland, especially in the United States, probably know about Eastern Redbud. Incredible Seeds usually gives a fairly good description of how their plants grow, so I can just read the description right off their website, really. Eastern Redbud is a beautiful native tree species with a short maroon-purple trunk and umbrella-shaped canopy that is smothered in lavender pink blossoms in early spring. Eastern Redbud is easy to start from seed and grows in the wild from the eastern coast of Canada down to Texas. It's hardy in zones 3 to 9. Redbud is happy as an understory tree in part shade, which I am looking for understory trees now. Out in the open in full sun, it will grow taller and bloom more prolifically. Its copious, tight clusters of fragrant flowers attract birds, bees, and butterflies. The leaves are glossy and heart-shaped. Belonging to the pea family, the flowers resemble pea blossoms, and both flowers and tender pods are edible. Now they say tender pods, so the peas inside as well, and the pods. Enjoy them much like peas, steamed with butter and salt. As the pods mature, they become brown and papery, and the seeds can be collected in the fall before they drop. So it's a large tree growing 15 to 30 feet. Its growth rate is medium to fast. It's not a nitrogen fixer despite being part of the pea family. It is a native plant. You can grow it in full sun to part shade. The soil preference, moist, well-drained, deep sandy loam, and I have that. This is one of the things we need to keep looking for, because in our spice cabinet there are things that come from tropical plants, but is there anything that we can substitute that will grow in a northern climate? I have a Carolina allspice out there, as you know. The bark on the Carolina allspice can be used as a substitute for cinnamon. This one is already zones 4 to 8. Incredible Seeds says anyone who loves a well-stocked spice cupboard will want this incredible plant in the garden. Every part of the spice bush is intensely aromatic. The leaves have a spicy fragrance when crushed and can be used fresh in hot or iced tea. The twigs can be simmered in water for a warming tea year-round. So it's a year-round harvest you can get from this thing. In fall, the berries can be collected and dried to use as a culinary spice, which can be used in place of allspice in sweet and savory dishes. The peppery taste of spice bush berries is also fabulous in meat rubs and marinades. Don't waste any time gathering the bright red berries. Birds quickly snap up this high-fat food source. Spice bush attracts interesting visitors in summer too, such as the larvae of the spice bush swallowtail butterfly, which we may or may not. We have swallowtail butterflies, but will the swallowtail that we have be attracted to spice bush? Well, that's yet to be seen, right? The spice bush swallowtail butterfly feeds on the leaves of the spice bush. So if you have caterpillars eating leaves of your spice bush, don't worry about it. It's just a swallowtail butterfly. Spice bush is a lovely native woodland shrub that works well in a border at the edge of the forest or in naturalized areas. It prefers moist locations in part to full sun. It grows to 10 feet with pretty teardrop shaped leaves. Clusters of tiny perfumed greenish yellow flowers bloom along the branches in early spring before foliage appears. These flowers give way to bright red drupes in fall, while the leaves turn a yellow-bronze hue. These plants are dioecious. That means one plant is male, the other one's female. So when you're growing them from seed, you have to wait for them to flower before you can tell which is which. If you need to, like in the future, I might want to sell them. I can grow them from seed and sell them for one price and say, you got what you got. And once I get some that I know are male and female, then I can clone those and then I can sell them as male or female spice bush plants, right? And I went to a couple other sites, and it says they're best grown in full sun to perch shade, but it tolerates full shade. Best soil is an average fertility, slightly acidic, medium texture, and well drained, but it will tolerate clay and wet soils. The Missouri Botanical Gardens says it's also tolerant to deer, drought, and juggalo from the black walnut. And with that wide tolerance, I mean, you can plant it pretty much anywhere, except for, of course, not in constantly wet soil. Comes also a discrepancy in the reported heights. Ontario Trees and Shrubs says it grows only to 1 to 2 meters, 3 to 6 feet, whereas other sites are saying 2 to 5 meters, which would give you 6 to 15 feet. I assume it depends on the growing conditions. That being said, this is another plant that you can grow in a large pot. The earliest flowerings is said to be 3 years, but it may take several years. They can't be sexed, like I said, until they reach flowering age. You need to get the berries to make the allspice substitute. You take the berries, you dry them, and then you grind them to a powder. However, the rest of the tree, as we said, can be used as a tea, or you can dry the leaves as well and grind them for a spice. It won't be as strong as the berries. Shagbark hickory, this is the first nut tree that I bought. They don't start producing nuts until about 40 years old, so I'll be 87 by then. Let's read the Incredible Seeds description. The hardy zones 4 to 8. Hickory nut is arguably the finest native nut. Its sweet, smoky flavor is like a cross between a walnut and a pecan, and it is a superior substitute in baking and salads. Toasting especially intensifies this rich flavor. So if I live long enough, I'll enjoy nuts from this tree. Shagbark hickory is a majestic giant that can live for up to 200 years. Plant it now and future generations will enjoy sitting in its shade and foraging for nuts. As the shagbark matures, its smooth gray bark becomes beautifully textured and shaggy, a striking presence year-round. The greenish yellow spring flowers of the shagbark hickory give way to sweet, edible, oval-rounded nuts encased in a thick green husk that splits when ripe. Of course, these delectable nuts are also favored by squirrels, raccoons, and other wildlife. It says cross-pollination generally produces a more abundant crop of better quality nuts. So it's best to plant 2 trees. As far as my benefit, the hickory wood is widely used to cure and smoke meats. It is extremely strong and makes heirloom quality tool handles, ladders, and furniture. Like I say, it'll take 40 years to get the nuts off this thing. The growth rate is 6 to 12 inches, so it doesn't really grow that fast. The trunk will be about 1 inch at 10 years, 4 inches at 30 years. So if I were to plant just a grove of these, see, these have 10 seeds. So I plant them fairly close together just to see how they're growing and decide which 1 or 2, whatever I want to keep. And when the other ones are big enough to make use of, then I'll cut those down. If I see they're growing well, then I'll probably buy another pack of seeds and make groves of just little bunches of 10 trees each, right? The Kentucky coffee tree. Actually, this one caught my attention because of its shape, really. It is already in zones 3 to 8. Incredible Seeds says, Kentucky coffee tree is a standout performer and tough as nails. This low-maintenance tree makes an enduring and elegant addition to a landscape with its bold, contorted branches and unique, scaly, gray-brown bark. The Kentucky coffee tree becomes almost sculptural as it ages, reaching up to 60 feet at maturity. The Mesawaki people taught early European settlers how to roast and grind the seed to brew a coffee-like, though caffeine-free, beverage. The unroasted seeds are toxic. This tree has the largest leaves of any native tree in Canada. Its unique leaves are actually made up of about 70 leaflets, which make a beautiful and interesting silhouette. Its lacy foliage and large canopy cast dappled shade in summer, providing ideal unfiltered light for understory companion plants. The Kentucky coffee tree blooms in late spring with clusters of sweetly fragrant greenish-white flowers, which give way to long and leathery reddish-brown pods. The gorgeous leaves transform from a striking pink bronze in spring to a blue-green in summer, and finally fade to a yellow in early fall. Exceptional beauty of the Kentucky coffee tree persists well into winter, with its unique twisted figure against the wintry sky and decorative clusters of long, thick pods that rattle in the wind. This one grows 1 to 2 feet per year. It has been reported to grow up to 3 feet per year. Its mature spread is 40 to 50 feet, and some websites actually reported 100 feet tall. Incredible Seeds says 60. And rot resistance is reported to be moderate to very durable. So I'm thinking something on the order of tamarack larch, which here locally it's called a juniper, but it's actually a tamarack. And it's on the border between moderately rot resistant and very rot resistant. So once again, most of the trees that I'm getting are rot resistant, deciduous, and I'll let the native trees grow while plugging in these other trees in among them and having a true forest garden, a garden disguised as a forest. I have 2 packets of seed left. See, cabbage, we're still trying to find the cabbage that will grow good in an organic garden, a 100% organic garden. There are people that grow cabbage here, but what do they give them, right? Our climate has the right temperatures for growing cabbage. The other conditions, that's another story. So, from Incredible Seeds, I bought the Early Jersey Wakefield cabbage. It's 50 days to maturity. Heirloom cabbage seeds from 1840. This unique variety of heirloom cabbage has tall pointed heads with excellent flavor. Early Jersey Wakefield heirloom cabbage is a very early maturing variety with heads that average 2 to 3 pounds each, and they are resistant to splitting. These are great all-around open pollinated heirloom cabbage seeds adaptable to any home organic garden. Oh, we'll see about that, right? And with this kind of seed, that's basically all I can do is look at the maturity rate and run through the varieties and see what grows best here and settle on the one that does. Now they add this other squash here that I thought was interesting. Delicata, it's called. It's a winter squash, but it's a sea pepple, 100 days to maturity. They say, oh, delicata. This reliable, storable winter squash is a favorite in our house. Delicata squash are extremely sweet and the rind is delicate enough to eat. Oblong squash are about 8 inches long and vining plants are great producers. Now, if you didn't have space for the vining type crops, they do have a bush variety. So If you want delicata squash but don't have space for a sprawling tangle of vines, then this is the plant for you. Ideal for patios and community garden plots. This bushy version of the classic delicata grows to 4 to 6 feet and is productive as ever. If you've never tried delicata squash, they are smooth, sweet, and when roasted, the rind is tender enough to eat. Delicata is a high producer and a reliable storage squash. 6 to 8 inches. I might have to put the fruit into sacks, but I'm starting to think about, along with growing squash out in the meadow, also growing them up a trellis. So we'll see what I do with that when it comes next spring. That is the seed all. I don't have many seeds I need to buy. If I do buy more, I will let you know what they are. But anyway, the tomatoes, make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell if you want to be sure to be notified. But we'll be going along through the winter with those tomatoes now and comparing the different varieties and how they grow. And you'll be able to see exactly what the plant looks like and the size of the fruit. That's all for today. Hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, come back for the next one and I'll see you then.